Hello and welcome. It's another Confessions podcast. Thank you for downloading this particular oral treat. On the way, our concise collection including the careless cake confusion, the creative credit card caper, Bazza's big birthday bonus, and a filling family feast for free. The thing is, who will you forgive? We have a confession from Louise. Thank you for this. Dear Father Simon and the most caring collective. This is the confession, which you might remember is called Someone Left the Cake Out in the Rain. I don't think that I can bake. It took so long to bake. I'll never have that recipe again.
Which makes sense if you know that song.
Not a cat.
Someone let the cat out.
Someone let the cat out in the rain.
Dear Father Simon, says Louise, I wish to write to you to confess to something that occurred over 10 years ago. It all began when we were invited to a surprise dinner to celebrate my Uncle William's birthday at an Italian restaurant in Southend in Essex. Now, I can do a Southend accent if needed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is that why it's now set in Southend?
No, it actually is set in Southend.
Oh, really?
It's just that it is a very similar to my East London accent.
Yeah, there you go.
My Aunt Ruth organised the meal, secret meal, for 10 members of our family, and we were all to be at the restaurant for 7 p.m. William walked in at 7:30, and we all cheered at his arrival. It was a great surprise, and he was shocked to see so many of us there waiting to celebrate. William walked around the table shaking hands and kissing everybody. Such was his gratitude for our appearance on his special day. Other diners were present in the restaurant. Some smiled at us, some frowned. We were a little on the rowdy side, I suppose, says Louise. Anyway, the evening was racing along smoothly, and all the food was served and eaten, along with lots of wine and much laughter. After the plates had been cleared, the lights in the restaurant dimmed, and we all hushed, guessing what we hoped was coming next. Yes, you're right, the cake had arrived. The music over the sound system began. Happy Birthday was the tune, and all our family sang along with Uncle William. He joined in as well. We all sang at the top of our voices and threw in the words Tom very loudly when the pause occurred in every birthday song where the name was required. We all said Tom all at the same time because that's the way it was supposed to be.
I don't understand.
Oh, no.
You said William. You said William. You've changed it. So his name is either Tom or William, everyone.
What happens is we change all the names.
He's called William Tom.
He's William Tom.
I'll just make
that made no sense.
No, it didn't. Okay. Anyway, the cake had arrived.
There it is.
The music over the sound system began playing Happy Birthday, and all our family, along with Uncle William, began to join in. We all added the word William when it got to the bit in the birthday song where there's a gap and the name is required. William, we all joined in, not Tom, because he's very much a William. Uncle William this is, on his birthday. Yeah. Anyway, then we moved on to other matters. I noticed that the waitress was walking rather slowly with the cake in front of her, looking straight ahead and glassy-eyed, to be honest, for some reason. It was around this time that I reached over to my aunt and whispered in her ear to congratulate her on arranging a successful surprise and such a beautiful cake. Upon hearing this, she did look rather confused and frowned when I mentioned the surprise cake, but we all carried on singing the birthday song regardless, singing to William. As the waitress with the cake went to walk past me, I stopped her. I pointed at William and said, he's the birthday boy's here, come on. Just put the cake down, thanks so much. In, dare I say it, quite a dismissive tone, because probably the wine was talking by now. All the family were clapping and cheering, all generally feeling rather merry and getting quite carried away in the moment. The cake was placed quickly in front of William by the waitress, who again seemed a bit confused, and at that point William started to blow out the candles. Well, he attempted to blow them out, but unfortunately these things can take time when you're of senior years. We all pretended not to notice the inevitable dribble and spit which was spraying over the icing. Not to worry, we're all family, aren't we? Same genes, same DNA, right. No one's going to mention it.
Fine.
It didn't help that the candles were the type that never blow out, so it took many huffs and many puffs to extinguish the many, many candles. In fact, why were the candles pink? Anyway, the lights now turned up and it was all bright in the room, and we all sighed and said, oh, that's nice. And then we all suddenly gasped because we wondered why the cake also had pink roses on, and why were the words Happy 90th Birthday Ethel
Had to be Ethel
iced across the top. And it really is Ethel. Although we might have changed it from Joan.
Probably have.
Anyway, Happy 90th Birthday Ethel, it said, in pink across the top. And the realisation struck us all. In the corner of the restaurant was a lady who was celebrating her 90th birthday with her 2 daughters at her side. A small table for 3. Ethel was dressed very primly and demurely, eating her dinner quietly, and had been one of the diners glancing around at our rowdy table, celebrating William's birthday. It was, of course, her cake, and not ours. Poor Ethel was cakeless, and William had just extinguished the burning flames with every last drop of oxygen and saliva he possessed. We looked over in the corner, and Ethel was standing, steadying herself and holding on to the table. Both her daughters had a look of horror on their faces, along with being bright red and a little angry. At this point, Uncle William walked straight over to Ethel and apologised profusely. However, the damage was done. Ethel's cake was covered in William's used breath and spit, and they weren't family, and they weren't going to share. So I need to confess that it was indeed me that caused this terrible mistake, as it was me who stopped the waitress in her tracks and persuaded her that William needed a big pink rose-covered and Ethel-worded cake. Apologies to Ethel. I will always be sorry, says Louise, who hasn't got an Uncle Tom anywhere in her family, but she has got an Uncle William. Anyway, the sin is the same.
I'm a bit confused about this story. Why was the waitress glassy-eyed?
Because she was confused, because she had a cake.
Why was she confused?
Because the table that she's walking past is singing Happy Birthday, and she knows that the cake is not for them, so why are they singing Happy Birthday?
Yeah.
Well, there could have been 2 birthdays,
That's
maybe?
why, yeah.
But it said Ethel on it.
Okay, anyway, I did that bit just over my head.
Were you paying attention?
I was, yeah, I was obviously too close to attention. I think, well, obviously Louise didn't mean to take Ethel's cake, and Ethel could have had Uncle William's cake, surely. That
It's covered in spit.
Uncle William's real cake. Was there not a cake for him?
No, there wasn't a cake for him
there was
at all.
never a cake for him.
There was never a cake for him?
No!
I mean, why not?
Well, why are they singing
I
Happy
don't
Birthday,
know.
demanding a cake?
Well, you can sing Happy Birthday without a cake.
Well, so hang on, are you telling me that Aunt Ruth organised this secret dinner for all their relatives, got everyone from all over the country,
And there was no
then
cake?
didn't make a cake?
There's a whole Italian
I'm
meal.
changing my verdict
There's
right
a whole
now.
Italian meal.
Well, I don't think it's Luigi's fault there was no cake.
It's Ruth's fault.
I think
You can stick a candle in an Italian dessert in a bit of
Tiramisu.
Yeah. I think it wasn't Louise's fault, and she didn't know, so you're forgiven. But I think Aunt Ruth should have got a cake for Uncle William, and then he could have given the cake to Aunt
was
Ethel.
all very straightforward.
To another made-up name. Yeah.
Brother Matthew.
I'm going to come across as something of a killjoy here. I cannot abide it in restaurants when someone starts singing Happy Birthday and everyone has to stop their conversation because someone else has got 1 year older. And so we're going to dim the lights and out come all the staff and there's the sparklers on the cake and we've all got to join. Well, I'm not interested in your birthdays. I'm not interested in your party. I have paid for my meal. But of course, no one wants to hear that. Everyone wants to hear that we're all joining in with this happy birthday. So, but added to that, Ruth is now organising parties where there isn't a birthday cake. At this birthday party that's taken years to organise, that everyone's having a massive time, but we're not going to have a cake. So it's their own fault. So, and at least Ethel had the good grace sit there and look embarrassed and British about it and not get involved.
And so,
good for Ethel.
And so therefore...
not forgiven.
Thank you. So this is from...
Are you just making the name up now?
Janine.
Janine, okay.
Dear Simon and the Devout Collective, I write to share with you a tale of deceit, shaming and ultimately revenge. Dates back a few years when, on my soul-searching gap year, I ended up working in a branded restaurant with delusions of grandeur. I think it's the restaurant that's got delusions of grandeur, not her, by the way. Such were the economic realities of the time. For reasons I will never understand, one of our regular customers was a well-known businessman with a television presence. She writes intriguingly.
Who could that be?
I don't know. Every month he would make an appearance. Best not to speculate, by the way.
Oh, really?
Every month he would make an appearance, and we would all try and shift the honour of serving him to our colleagues. On this occasion, however, the deed fell to me. Begrudgingly, I made my way over to the table and greeted the gentleman and his considerably younger female companion. Resisting the urge to comment on how soon it had been since he'd dispensed of his previous lady, I instead greeted him with a jolly good evening. Receiving a smile from the lady and a grunt from the gentleman, I offered our menus, reeled off the specials, and asked if they would like a drink while they looked. Mineral water, came the response. As I wandered off to go and pull out a hugely overpriced bottle of glorified tap water, I heard the sound that every waiter dreads. A click of the fingers, followed by a shout of, "Oi, you!" Forcing a smile and resisting the urge to point out my name badge, I turned round. What followed was a ridiculous scene of the customer ordering the most expensive, overpriced bottle of red wine on the menu, loudly and obnoxiously, before inviting his date to order whatever you want, no matter how expensive, he said grandly and preposterously. I fetched the wine, unscrewed the cap, and observed as our businessman with the TV presence swilled the wine, sniffed it, and had a sip, following some inane and ignorant chat with his obviously uninterested date about the vintage, body, and a possibility of the wine being corked. Something miraculous for a drink in a bottle with a screw cap. We carried on. The whole meal proceeded in this fashion. In-depth talk about his knowledge of food and discussion of the provenance of the ingredients in his soon-to-be microwaved risotto, and much finger-clicking and patronising and general idiocy. As you can tell, Janine is a little bit fed up at this point. As a waiter, you have plenty of opportunity to sabotage a guest's evening. There are the obvious ones: food interference, accidental spillage of food. I think we've had all of those. And sometimes the drink, and even the occasional spot of passive aggression. But no, I was a professional, and frankly, I liked my revenge to be a little more creative. Instead, my moment came when the esteemed businessman with the TV presence called for his bill, complete with more finger-clicking. Presumably, he was looking into a career as a swing singer. Having analysed his bill, he pulled out the sort of credit card reserved for those with more money than taste. And then came the icing on the cake. He said, "Bet you've never seen one of those cards before. They don't give them out to anybody, you know." I processed the payment. He entered his PIN, forgetting to tip, and handed me the machine back. Seizing my moment, I subtly hit the cancel button on the terminal, printing a "card transaction failed" slip, and delivered it with a sizable flourish. Allowing those nearest to hear without being too obvious, I exclaimed, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir, your card has been declined."
Excellent.
Not enough funds, maybe? Flustered, he looked at the card. Why, that... This is Captain Manring. That can't be right. That shouldn't happen. "Maybe you have another form of payment?" I asked, with a sort of saccharine sweetness reserved for only the most sympathy-inducing customers. He pulled out another, more common card. But yes, my finger hit the cancel button again. "Card transaction failed again. I'm sorry, this is no good either," I chirruped. He was seriously embarrassed now, his date flushing the shade of our tomato paste. "There's a cash point in the square. Your wife may like..."
Oh, yes.
"Your wife might like to stay."
Yes, your wife, yes.
The shade of red darkened. They glared at each other. He stormed out, returning 15 minutes later with a handful of cash. We ended the transaction. Still no tip. Now, this is a minor discretion, I know, but as I watched the couple leave the restaurant in near silence, him looking embarrassed, her looking a little unsure, I'd like to think that by bringing him down a peg or two, or three, he might have learnt to treat his service staff and women in general slightly better. I wouldn't know. I never saw them again in our establishment. So I need forgiveness, please, not from the businessman or his date. He was of questionable morality, I think, and I can think of several words to describe him, most probably unbroadcastable. Instead, I seek forgiveness from the bank worker, who doubtlessly had an irate customer on the phone asking why his cards had been declined when he had plenty of funds. I also seek forgiveness from the service staff in whatever establishment he doubtlessly transferred his custom to, having been thoroughly embarrassed in ours. Well, you can understand. See, that is more creative, isn't it? That's not the usual sort of spit in the cheese which we've had in the past. And other things, and tipping wine into people's lamps. What do we think of how Janine went about her business?
Janine sounds fantastic. I love her phrase, "businessman with a TV presence," and "your wife." I mean, classic.
Yeah.
What a genius. I think
I'm sure you're
basically...
glad I stopped you and started working out who it might have
Absolutely.
been.
We have no idea who it could be. I think no tip is completely unforgivable. I was a waitress in my gap year as well, and her revenge was fantastic as well.
Did you ever take revenge on a customer?
Not in that way, but did I?
In
Yeah,
any
may have
kind of
done,
way,
may have
yes.
done. So I think, all in all, it was a very good wheeze. And Janine, you're completely forgiven.
I think we need to have a team week very shortly, team confession week.
No, not again.
Brother Matthew.
I think I can pinpoint the part of this story where everyone was against him, and that is when he clicks his fingers.
Exactly
Clicking your fingers, that's always a great move. Well done, yes. Click your fingers. Don't talk to them like they're human beings. Just summon them like a dog.
And say you.
You over there.
Always
I'm
works.
better than you. I want to order what you want off the menu because I have lots of money. And isn't it my card? You've never seen one of them before. I didn't realise this was a ploy. I think this is superb. I wish I'd known about this when I was waiting on tables. And, you know, the idea that you could just press cancel. Oh, I'm sorry, your card's no good. Maybe you're not paying your bills. Unlucky, sunshine. Go off over the road. There's an ATM. Here's hoping, and your wife can go with you. Is it your wife? Who knows? So I am definitely going to forgive, and I think we all are. I'd be astounded if anyone comes out on the side of the businessman.
Well, we'll find out. 882921. So you waited too? Did you ever take your
we've
revenge?
all done it. Oh yes. Oh my God, I can tell you now. Obviously,
Are you going to leave it for Creative Week? All right. Right, now, the interesting thing about tonight's Drive Time Confession is that it is an ongoing confession.
Oh.
So the problem that it addresses is happening now.
It's live.
It's a sort of a live and active issue which we are going to...
Are we going to influence it in
well,
some way?
Wow.
It is possible. The Dean of Deadliness has joined us because he hasn't got any other voiceover work today. Normally he has to go away and do an ad or something.
Will you just keep quiet? I thought I might have missed half of it, you see. This might be part two, but actually this is an ongoing... This is a current problem.
Yeah, Discovery Channel not got a booth ready.
unexpected item in the bagging area.
This is...
Sadly, we heard that.
This confession comes from the Bald-Headed Sock Seller. That's how it's signed. The Bald-Headed Sock Seller, thank you for this. Dear Father Simon and the collective bunch of lovely people we wish to confess. We feel that firstly there is a need to give you a little background knowledge on the victim, who we're going to call Bazza, who is indeed the subject of our confession to you. If we stand any chance at all of being forgiven for the sequence of events leading up to, during and subsequently following his 40th birthday celebrations. We all first met Bazza at the local rugby club just under 20 years ago and were immediately aware that although he is a pleasant and fun guy to be around, he is indeed a loud, vociferous character who always seemed at that time to be the chief enforcer of fines and forfeits at the local rugby club. Whether justified or not, and it was a pastime and hobby of his to inflict penance upon many a young colt newly transferring up to the seniors. He would always take great pleasure in determining their fate, starting with the ever-dreaded initiation process. It seemed that Bazza would always be in the forefront of any pranks that were to be had, and it was this ever-present thought in our minds that we began to wonder what delights we could possibly bestow upon him, especially with his forthcoming 40th event looming closer. Anyway, we digress. The actual incident took place in April this year, when Bazza organised his 40th birthday, a James Bond-themed party at a local restaurant. Interesting, I think, with the James Bond book being discussed after 6 today with William Boyd. Just thought I'd mention it.
Smacks of production.
It does. Or coincidence, one of the two. Everyone was eagerly looking forward to the night, fancy dress being a big part of the evening as ever. We all traditionally donate £20 each time someone in our large circle of friends has a special birthday, in order to give our friends a special treat. The question then arose, what do we get for Bazza? We surely can't follow the line of previous birthdays. That would be too dull and same old. We started to come up with some alternative presents. The normal red letter day presents were out of the question, as Bazza had done most of these things on his own accord. He does enjoy the adrenaline rush, you know. It was here that our thoughts went to things he does not enjoy. Yes, good idea, we need to get something he'll hate. And we'll all get a laugh at his expense. A close friend of ours, with the name of Tip Top Tell, then came up with what we thought would be an absolute perler. First of all, a full facial and manicure at the local beauty parlour was booked, and this would surely irritate Bazza, as this was definitely something he wouldn't like at all, and it was justified because his lovely wife, Susan, would be able to use it if he didn't. Then we all started to get really mischievous. The one thing Bazza, at 17.5 stone, hates is running, especially given the fact that both his knees have had rugby-related operations and could never be described as being fully operational. This being the case, the perfect present was, of course, an entry into the London Marathon for 2014.
Wow.
Okay? We used a local friend in the printing industry to spoof up an acceptance from the London Marathon Organising Committee for the 2014 London Marathon. Brilliant, it all looked very official, and only the trained eye would have been able to spot the fact that it was, in fact, faked. We presented his unique present to him on the night of his birthday in front of all his friends and family. We're still not sure what he really felt at the time of this presentation, but he seemed to be quite excited. And not wanting to either show his disappointment or, more importantly, let us know we got the better of him, he went along with this and seemed to take the idea quite seriously. Training, I have to tell you, has now started. First, with a massive reduction in drinking and eating of junk food, which has led to him losing weight of 2.5 stone. Then, 6 weeks ago, the running training commenced. At present, he's up to just under 15 miles a week. He talks to everyone about his forthcoming marathon all the time. There isn't anyone who doesn't know about this, but in the same vein, there are very few people who don't know that it's all a joke and that he will not actually be running anywhere. Our confession is not actually to Bazza, who's stitched up more people than Gokwan has made dresses, nor to Susan, his wife, as she does now have the benefit of a newly improved Bazza, albeit far less of him lately. No, our confession is to Bazza's dad, the legendary father, Bazza, who has booked his hotel in London with the sole intention of supporting and cheering on his eldest son, despite the fact that he will not actually be able to take part after all. He might be waiting a very long time if he's waiting for his son to run past. We ask for his forgiveness and hope that he finds other things to do on this important day. Father Simon, if you knew Bazza, you would forgive. We are sure. Regards, the bald-headed sock seller. So here we have a situation. So that's why it's still a live situation, because Bazza has been stitched up. He's enjoyed stitching up people over many, many years. But he's getting fit. He still thinks he's going to enter the London Marathon. He's going to turn up. He hasn't got a number. He won't be able to take part. On the other hand, he's lost a load of weight, 2.5 stone. It's fairly extraordinary, and he's running. There's a lot of running to be done. Let's see how this is going to be balanced.
Well, the thing is, if they wanted to stitch up Bazza because he deserves it, then they've done it, and they've done it really well, so they shouldn't be asking for forgiveness. It's been a very effective prank, hasn't it? I don't know. Is it too late to get Bazza into the London Marathon for 2014? Matt?
He would need to
apply.
Yeah, and he would also need to be getting sponsors by now.
Well,
so
I'm sure he could. They should get together and really apply and really get lots of and sponsor him and see whether they can get him a place, and then it will be fine.
But in the meantime,
I think you kind of, you've achieved what you set out to achieve. So I think.
Should they tell him?
Well,
No.
do you think he's listening to this? Possibly. I don't know. I don't know what to say because I don't know Bazza. So maybe Bazza deserved it. So I'm going to forgive you.
Dean of Deadliness.
Have we changed the names, do we know?
Yes.
Ah, right. Very clever. You always do that, don't you? And it's good for Baz, anyway. Most hotels you can cancel at about 4 o'clock the day before, so I don't think it's that much of a problem. I think you can get out of the hotel booking. So it's the dad they're confessing to.
Yeah, I suppose there is.
I would unpick the hotel, personally. I'd take Dad to one side and say, forget it.
Would you tell Bazza?
Oh, no. Okay. It's good for Baz. It's good for Baz.
Brother Matthew.
No, this is what Bazzas need. All of these years have gone past when Bazza's been having trouble with his knees and putting on the weight, and what he's needed is someone to say, right, you're in the marathon, sunshine, get yourself round that park, and he's done it.
He'll thank them.
He will absolutely thank. And anyway, you don't need to be running in the London Marathon to run a marathon. Just drive 26 miles away and then run home. There you go. You've done your marathon.
No,
absolutely.
It's not like the big event, is it?
I think you'll find the taking part there, Rebecca. Very much counts. And just get some bloke dressed as a rhino to occasionally pass you by.
I'll do that.
So I'm going to forgive. It's a great prank. Well done.
But you never forgive pranksters.
I know, I never do. That and art students, normally that's my rule.
You've broken your own rule.
My own rule, because this is very good.
So we had another foodie-based confession. It comes from Mike. Mike, thank you very much indeed. Almost certainly not called Mike. But
No.
Let's call him Mike, shall we?
Well, Ida. Sorry. Ida Duck. Mike Ida Duck. No, it's a made-up name as well.
That doesn't work.
No, Ida works.
Yeah, it's normally a lady's name, isn't it?
It is, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Should we try again?
Sorry, so sorry.
That's why you're a novice.
Yes.
Dear Father Simon and the collective Holy Posse, my confession relates to an attempt to have a nice Sunday lunch in a nice country pub about 18 years ago. Now, albeit this is about a Sunday lunch, but the sequence of events were triggered by the decision of my wife and I to go to the dogs the previous evening. The end result of the evening was that after the final race, we were flushed to the value of £60. The next, 18 years ago, that's a heck of a lot of money. The next day, we decided that we should utilise our winnings by going to find a nice country pub and have a proper Sunday lunch. Now, I should mention here though we'd only moved into the area recently and had already made several attempts to find a nice country pub for said Sunday lunch, all of which had ended in abject failure for poor food, poor surroundings, various other reasons, he adds vaguely. But unperturbed, we decided once again to venture into deep and darkest Surrey and try our luck. And so it was that after a 20-minute drive, we found ourselves in a pretty little village, and before us stood what appeared to be the perfect establishment. We parked up and entered. Indeed, the establishment seemed to tick all the boxes: oak beams, flagstone floors, and the sort of rickety steps and stairs that would give a health inspector a coronary. No jukebox, no riffraff, says Mike. We made our way to the bar, behind which stood the obligatory chalk board detailing the specials. The choice was a 2-course meal, soup and a main, and a single course, which is just the main. One had the title Spring Special, the other had the title Sunday Special. We ordered 2 spring specials, a drink each, and sat down to mull over how clever we'd been the previous evening at the Dogs. It was at this point that things sort of started to go downhill. After a while, we noticed that a number of people who had arrived after us were getting their meals whilst we were still waiting for ours, which annoys a lot of people, obviously. Our first thoughts: yet again, we're going to have a disastrous Sunday lunch. Another terrible pub. The waitress was called over. We pointed out that people arriving after us were getting their meals, so where was ours? She apologised profusely and ran to the kitchen. Within a couple of minutes, she arrived back with 2 plates of roast beef with all the trimmings, to which we responded with frustration: "And where's the soup?" Red-faced, she once again disappeared to the kitchen, arriving back a short while later with 2 bowls of soup. In due course, after finishing the soup, our main course arrived, followed shortly by a lady who introduced herself as the manageress. She also apologised profusely for what had happened and said that we could order a dessert and it would be on the house by some way of recompense. On finishing our main course, dessert was ordered, and it arrived at a speed that would have given Usain Bolt a run for his money. As we finished, once again the manageress appeared. She again apologised, this time stating that the whole meal was on the house, and promptly placed on the table a number of notes and coins.
What?
Yes.
And money as well.
And money.
Wow.
Not wanting to look a gift horse in the mouth, we quickly gathered the cash, made our way to the exit, and took a cursory glance at the chalk board as we left. And of course it was at this point that we noticed that the spring special was in fact the single rather than the 2-course meal. So to summarise, we had ordered a single-course meal, eaten a 3-course meal, and been refunded for a 2-course meal. Taking into account the previous evening, all in all, quite a profitable weekend. I would like to inform the collective that we went straight back in, gave the money back, and apologised for any confusion.
But you didn't.
But that would be wrong, because we drove home and said no more, and we realised that we've done a terrible thing.
There we go.
And
got the lawyers outside.
We wouldn't ever do that.
Never do that again.
We'll never do.
No.
Father Simon asked forgiveness from the pub, who had tried desperately to make amends for their small error, but who, on falling on their sword, effectively managed to stab themselves twice. Well, Mike, I'm expecting quite a harsh line on this one, because effectively, I think most people would have realised, they'd look at the board and go, look, we ordered the wrong thing. Here, at least, you know this cash that you gave us? Have the cash back and maybe we'll pay for the... It was our mistake. But Mike, not his real name, I'm hoping, decided that he'd actually keep everything. Well, let's see. Sister Rebecca.
That's a really difficult one, because the pub behaved very reasonably after they'd realised they'd made a mistake and everything.
Wrong.
Yeah, and, it was probably a family-run pub. They probably desperately needed the takings.
Things they didn't do anything wrong.
The pub didn't do anything wrong.
They ordered They ordered the one because they got 1 course.
Yeah, but the meal was late, wasn't it? Anyway, but apart from that, I think it was a bit dishonest, wasn't it? They should have just returned the favour. It's a bit of bad karma, and although I'm sure a lot of people would have done the same, but I don't forgive Mike.
What would you have done?
I don't think I would have done it.
That's an awful lot to walk off with, isn't it? Not just having a little bit. You get here's some cash.
The pub had been so kind, and the manageress had been so apologetic. So no, I don't think I would have.
The voice of the kitchen. Novice Nigel.
Yeah, I've just thought of it. If we have any confessions at Christmas, I've just thought of mine. You know, when you've got the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other.
Good. Well, Team Week is definitely approaching.
Mike, because the fact that he was still in the establishment or in the grounds when they twigged and looked up at the board, and knowing that they still pocketed the brass, then I think, that's really naughty. And is theft. Mike,
it's not, is it?
Yeah, it is. No. The money they'd actually been given it back, and they took money for food that they actually hadn't ordered.
But that's not if there's an interesting moral dilemma. It's the moral maze here.
Yeah.
Plug another Radio 4 show. So if you get given £5 change too much and then you walk off with it, is that
Yes, definitely.
No,
it's not theft though, is it? Because I've actually given you the money. That's not theft.
in a court of
By
law. I don't
mistake.
think
It's the wrong thing. I've done the wrong thing, but it's not theft. If I give you too much money and you walk off with it, then that's my fault.
But if you know that it's too much, then it is theft because you're doing it knowingly.
I don't think it's. Well, I don't know.
No. It's not a court in the land
in
that
a
would
court
convict.
of law, if it could be proven. Say you said to your mate, "I've just had change from a 20 and I only gave him 10." And you walked away, and that was proven in court, I would think you could be done for theft. Very interesting point. We'll get the lawyers on this one. But in this case, I'm sorry, Mike, I actually definitely wouldn't forgive you.
Brother Matthew.
It looks like it's going to fall to me to be the only honest one here and say, I'd have taken the money. Not only would I have taken the money, I would have gone back there every week afterwards and tried the same thing again. Because free food and you get money on your plate when you leave. Well done. I will find out the name of this country pub and be there on Sunday. There's too few.
It's probably gone bust.
It probably has. Yeah, let's be honest.
I thought you said you were going to spend the money that you pocketed, but no, you.
But no, I will.
Free
I'll spend the money going back and earning money.
I think what we should say in our new penance section,
yes,
Mike, I think all that money should give to children in need.
Absolutely
or comic
right.
relief or a local charity of some kind. That's it, they were the confessions, but let's be honest, you've got one that's just as good. So you send it now, please, to confessions@bbc.co.uk and another helping next week.